Welcome to Mastering the Art of Real Estate. I'm your host, Debbi DiMaggio. I am thrilled today to welcome my good friend, Pam Smilow. Pam, let's welcome you in.
Hi,
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
I'm, I know I'm excited to have you. And as I was reading your bio, I said, "Oh my God, I forgot about all that cool information in her history." And so I'm excited to go down that again with you. And I'm just thrilled to have you. So thank you for joining us today. So I'm going
Thank
to make
you.
a proper introduction. Pam Smilow lives and works in Manhattan, New York, and on the mid coast of Maine. She is a successful self supporting artist of considerable national and international stature. Over decades, she has built a prosperous business, and her network of clients is international and nationwide. Her mixed media paintings are transformative dream landscapes, abstract, visionary, full of recognizable symbols, and powerfully expressive. She works intuitively, mixing mediums and textures, often using collage elements in her work. Her art is accessible and guaranteed to inspire and brighten any interior setting. Her mission is to seek to add a bit of beauty and joy into the world. Brought up in the only fully realized Frank Lloyd Wright community outside New York City, daughter of a prominent mid century modern furniture designer, Smilo knows that environment has a big effect on one's psyche. She sees the room as an extension of her palette and likes to work with architects and interior designers to find the right piece of art to fit a specific place. I am an intuitive, Pam says, I am an intuitive painter. I often begin without consciously thinking, and one stroke builds onto another, suggestive of a direction which I follow. My vocabulary consists of imagery, a lot of which has stuck with me since my childhood: houses, birds, ladders, flowers, and moons. Nature is probably my biggest inspiration. I work in layers, often staying within the same family of color, and draw a lot on memory and emotion. In response to these turbulent times, Pam has started a new arm of her business entitled Jumpstart Your Creativity. We cannot let them take our job away, and to counter, she wants to act as a mentor, encouraging and helping people who have always wanted to start an art practice but are not sure where to begin. That's a new one for me. I didn't know that's what you're embarking on, but we'll get to that much later. There's a lot to unpack in the bio. I don't even need questions. There's just so much to share. So
Thank you.
first of all, I have to say, I am the proud owner of many Pam Smilow art pieces, and everything that was said in that bio, from the birds and the color and just the joy and the happiness that her art brings. I love pink and chartreuse and just bright colors. And oftentimes during my podcast or my podcast interviews, I always have a piece of Pam Smilow art behind me. You'll see it in both my houses in West Hollywood and Northern California, and it brings me joy every time, and I'm often taking photos and sharing it on social media. So thank you, Pam. It definitely brings a smile to my face every single day. So with that, I always love to start, where did you start and how did you get where you are today? So let's go back into your childhood and tell us about this upbringing in a Frank Lloyd Wright community.
Okay, well, I think I got a very early start because my dad was not only a furniture designer, but also painted and sculpted. So I always had a lot of art supplies around the house. My mother was really into crafts. We had to make all our own gifts. So we did
Oh,
all
wow.
kinds of things, candle making and covering waste paper baskets with magazine articles and all kinds of knitting and sewing. And we even had a pottery wheel in our basement, so I had a lot of it at home. um, my mother was also into early childhood education, and she actually was born in Germany and escaped Nazi Germany. um,
Oh, wow.
Ended up in England in just in the nick of time. She got out of Germany in 1938, and on a program where she became like a children's nurse for German Jewish girls that were trying to get out of Nazi Germany. And but she was very interested in early childhood education. So I started when we came 10 years later. She came to the States and found a nursery school at Sarah Lawrence College. That's where I went to nursery school, and I was told
Oh.
that I went straight to the easel and stayed there the whole
Aw.
time. So, so I had a good
So
start
cute.
that way. And yeah, and growing up in that community, there were 47 families. Um, the houses were all beautiful. Three of them were Frank Lloyd Wright houses. The rest were designed by disciples of Frank Lloyd Wright. And so aesthetically, I was surrounded by beauty all the time. And so I really led a blessed life since the beginning.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And so then so you were just a natural artist from a young age, and your parents inspired that in you. So did you go on to do any formal training?
Well, no, I ended up, going to school. I always did art all along. And then in high school, I had a really good high school art program where we did everything from filmmaking to, it was a public school, but a really good one. Um, so I was exposed to etching and pottery and filmmaking and painting and all kinds of different things, banner making. And so when I came time to go to college, I thought, you know what, I better learn something that I wouldn't do on my own. So I ended up going to the University of Michigan and just taking whatever classes I wanted to. But I ended up talking a lot of my professors into accepting art projects instead of term papers. and
Wow,
and
no
that was
way.
good. Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
And they did? They allowed that?
Yeah. Yeah, like a film class, I did a whole book, like a collage book on Fellini, and there's different kinds of things where, I luckily had open professors who realized that people could communicate not only with words but with images and that kind of thing.
Wow.
And I realized too that, a lot of people go to art school because they want to be motivated to do art, and it kind of keeps them with a structure. But I was already motivated, so I didn't
Mm,
need that push. And so I ended up, thinking I better learn some things academically that I wouldn't do on my own.
right, right. So out of college or so during college, did you have any gallery openings, or did you debut your art
Yeah,
in places in high school or college?
I had my first show at in Ann Arbor at a gallery called Art Worlds Gallery, and that was, I think, when I was like, I don't know, 19 or 20, something like that. And went on, and I basically started doing mostly collage. So
Okay.
and then I did. I think the first show I had, I think it was partly a series called Sleeping Women series, where I really relied on the collage element as the main part of the painting or piece. But I ended up doing a lot of background work in paint or pastel or oil pastel. And then I ended up getting enough confidence in myself where I kind of let the collage element as the central image go. And I started doing more of my own stuff and I'm still do a lot of collage, but it's always like the secondary part of a piece rather than the main part of a piece.
Right,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
And then so that was in college? Was that in college when you had that show?
yeah, that was in
Or was that
college.
yeah,
Yes,
that was in college.
exactly. Hmm.
So now
And
you're
then,
graduating from Michigan, and then where did you go from there?
okay, well, I will also say that my junior year, I did do a junior year abroad in
Oh,
Aix-en-Provence, France, and
wow.
I got there as part of the University of Michigan program, but ended up going to the art school there, and I did ceramics there. So I did have some formal training in ceramics.
Okay.
And then after I stayed in Ann Arbor for a little bit, but as an artist, when you want to do your own work, the big problem is to find the time to do it if you're not born rich, which I wasn't, so I always had to work. So basically, I ended up moving to Spain because I had lived in
Oh, wow.
Aix-en-Provence and I liked that Mediterranean area. So
Mhm.
I decided to try Spain because I wanted to learn Spanish, and I ended up with a degree in French just sort of by default. I like to learn languages. So I went to Barcelona thinking I'd learn Spanish. Little did I know that the main language in Barcelona was Catalan, but I ended
Mhm.
up learning Spanish and Catalan, and
Wow.
I ended up spending 5 years in Spain. And the beauty
Wow.
of it was that I only, in the end, had to teach 12 hours a week. I taught English as a second language. and then I had the rest of the time to paint. So that's kind of always the challenge, to find the time and not have to work full time. And that's how I ended up in Spain.
That was
And I
perfect.
taught.
And so what were you painting there? Were you doing what you're doing today, or were you doing different?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always been on the same trajectory in a way. But I remember being totally fascinated by palm trees. And, for a New Yorker, palm trees were really exotic. And so that whole
That's true.
Mediterranean um, atmosphere definitely influenced me. Yeah.
Okay, I
But I
think I
mean,
have a
I
palm
think,
tree or 2
yeah, yeah.
in my
And
house.
California too has a lot of palm trees. New
Yeah.
York, we don't have a lot of palm trees.
No.
And I draw a lot on nature. So, you know, somebody was saying to me today, we were talking about risk, and we're saying like what kind of excites you and gets you really excited. And someone was saying riding a motorcycle or climbing a mountain or whatever. And they looked at me and said, "What excites you?" And I said, "Birds." And then I said, "Trees." So,
Those,
anyway,
yeah,
there's not
and
much
that and
risk in
that's in
that.
your art. That's definitely in your art.
Yeah.
So now why did you decide to leave Spain, and where did you go after Spain?
So I was in Spain for 5 years. And
Nice.
I realized that the longer I stayed there, the more attached I would become. And I
Right.
realized deep down that I really didn't want to grow old in a culture that wasn't my own. And
Mm,
that's what drew me back to the States. But I was always looking for a way to move back where I wouldn't have to work all the time at another job. And I ended up totally lucking out and meeting a woman who had an art gallery outside of New York City and had just bought an
wow.
old schoolhouse and
Oh,
had
wow.
was full of a theater and then artist studio spaces. So she offered me a half-time job in the gallery, and then part of the payment was a studio in the schoolhouse. So it was perfect. And
That was
I ended up
amazing.
meeting, yeah, I ended up meeting my husband there. He started working in my studio. Then we ended up managing the theater at night. I mean, we just didn't do that much. We took tickets and kind of took care of the building a little bit. And yeah, and I raised my daughter in that schoolhouse building where she could wander around. I wasn't isolated with a kid at home, and she would wander into the theater and sit in the audience and watch the plays over and over, or go backstage and work, get to try on costumes and meet the
How
actors and
fun.
actresses. And so, yeah, it was a great, great, great run. We were there for quite
Was
a
that
while.
was that a studio where you lived and worked? Or was it just
Well,
your work?
we weren't supposed to live there, but we did sleep there some. We kind of treated it a little as like a summer house or a country
You're right.
house. We were
How
still living in
cool.
Manhattan, but we would reverse commute, and yeah. And the owner kind of knew what we were doing, but kind of
And
looked
where
the
was
other
that
way.
located? Where was
That was
the,
located,
school?
you might have heard of, well, it's Mount Kisco or Katona, New York, Westchester County, northern
Oh,
Westchester.
okay.
It's a town called
Okay.
Croton Falls. Yeah.
Okay, so it was a little bit of a commute, so you stayed there. What a
Yeah.
great
It's
experience
like a
for your
50
daughter.
minute. Yeah.
Did she love her upbringing? How does she reflect back on it? Was it a
Yeah, I
good
think she did. She had two artist parents. My husband was also a painter and ceramicist. And yeah, I think, she felt very loved. She's made that clear to me. And, we
No.
have our mother-daughter things, of course, but I think she really
Right.
loved her childhood and has a lot of great memories over it.
That's
So
wonderful.
lucky. Yeah.
So tell me how you met your husband, who I knew, and sadly he passed, but he was a great, great person. I was fortunate enough to meet him. So tell us how you met him, and you guys had not exactly, but you had a similar way of doing your art. So tell us about how you
We
guys
did.
met and about the way you guys did it.
Yeah. So I was working in that gallery that I told you about outside of the city. It was in Somers, New York. It was called Somerstown Gallery. And there was a pottery studio behind the gallery. Lee Pope, who was the owner, she's since passed, was an amazing patron of the arts, I would say, really amazing woman, and supported a lot of artists throughout her life. And at one point, I think it was Paul Soldner that kind of put together this ceramic studio behind the gallery. And Gerd, my husband, had come from Denmark and was working in that pottery studio. So he used to come into the gallery to make phone calls. and that's how I met him. And
Oh,
yeah, yeah. And so then he was living in the area and he used to come in. I had a press in my studio and he would come and work on the press. And yeah, and then we got together and we
and
were
did was
married.
his
And then
art was his art did you train him on how you did your art? Even though they weren't exactly the same, they were kind of similar in the method.
no,
Did that come from him, and had he been an artist beforehand like you?
yes, yes, he had been. He was into ceramics, but he also always did printmaking and painting a little bit too. And no, I did not train him. He was not trainable.
He had a mind of
But
his own too.
totally a strong person, whatever. But he and I approached art in a similar way. We both were
Right,
intuitive painters. We painted a lot out of our heads, and and we also, had, I think our work, although it didn't look like each other, I think we definitely had an affinity, and our work went really well together. So
right.
that was really good for our careers also because, if somebody was interested in one of my paintings, they might also be interested in one of his. They complemented each other,
Very
and
much.
yeah, yeah. And so but I will say that we really sold our work in a very unconventional way. I don't know if you want
Oh,
me to
right.
get into that right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, I will. I'll ask that in a minute. I that is, yes, very key to this. But first tell me, can you walk us through the process of how from the blank canvas and where it's set up and how you do it? How do you layer it, and give us
Hmm.
a
Yeah.
tutorial? I would love that.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, uh, we were both very practical painters, I would say, because we had a lot of criteria that we needed to do in order to sell our work and whatever. So, I first of all, I never liked to work on a stretched canvas because
Mm.
I didn't like the bounce. I did not. I
Oh,
wanted a hard surface. So we would buy our canvas in rolls and push pin it onto a wall, sheetrock wall or whatever, and then
okay.
paint like that. And normally with my work, I would start with gesso, which gesso is really, it's like a plaster kind of paint. It's cheaper than regular acrylic paint. I work in acrylic, I will
Oh,
say that also. And
okay.
so it fills the holes of the canvas so you don't put the expensive paint, doesn't bleed into it. So you start with a
Okay.
layer of gesso, and then I would use something called molding paste or light molding paste, which is sort of like a kind of like a stucco in a way. And it just
Okay.
gives the canvas some depth in a way and
Okay.
some transparency also. And then often, if I knew that I was going to do a red painting, I would often start with the opposite of the color wheel, like
Oh,
green or
wow.
something like that, because acrylic can look really flat and boring. So I
Okay.
really work my surfaces. And the
Wow.
more layers that I put on the canvas, I think the better something looks. So, in a way, part of my Jumpstart Your Creativity is not to be afraid of making mistakes because with acrylic paint, you can just go over and over again. And the more you go over and over, the richer the canvas surface looks.
Okay, that
So,
is so fascinating because as you were saying it, all I could think of is that it's just gonna be black. It's like you're gonna mix these colors and it's not gonna be more brilliant like your art is. I would think that as you mixed a green and another color, it's just gonna get darker and darker and not vibrant. So I am definitely gonna take a class when I come in October.
yeah, come work alongside me. And
I
now I have
would
a place
love
in
it.
Maine as well that's big enough to have somebody come. And yeah, I've been doing
Oh,
that and really enjoying that. Or in Manhattan, either one, you know.
okay,
But
I'm definitely
but
gonna take you up. Yeah, so I thought the layers. So you put the gesso, and then what's the next thing? The molding, what's
gesso and
that
then
called?
molding paste, and
Molding
then
paste?
you can fool around with the background surface. And the thing with acrylic paint is that it dries quickly. So you don't, like oil paint, you're right that if you
Oh,
mixed all of it together, it would, like, I'm not good with oil paint because I'm not patient. So I couldn't wait for it to dry.
yeah,
So
I
the acrylic
mean,
paint dries quickly, and then you can layer and layer and layer, and you can scratch into it or whatever you want to do with it.
so now you do have the collage element. So as you're layering the colors, and then how do you tear fabric, or what is it that you're tearing? Because you are
Yeah.
putting these collages into your what is it next?
Yes. I like to use collage elements just because I think it varies up the texture. And
Mhm.
so I have a big collection of fabric that I've collected and, little bits of paper. Um, when I'm vacuuming my house, I'm like, no, don't, let's not vacuum that or whatever, because it's like a tiny little thing of
Right.
something so I have like a few flat files full of my collage elements. And I
Okay.
kind of really know my collage elements at this point. So I might like look for something, or I'm
You know
always
what you're
struggling
looking for.
how to organize it better because I spend a lot of time looking for things.
Yeah, I would love to. I have bright in both of my houses. I have the bright pinks, but I would love to have a neutral home where it's all neutral and then have your beautiful, beautiful neutral pieces in that. And the whole house would be
Oh,
beige and white with your neutral pieces. It would be perfect.
yeah.
So
Well,
she
I
has
love
all
color.
colors. Yes, you love
I
color,
love
but you
color,
have
but I
all color.
also love neutral too.
Right,
I've done a lot of paintings that are, whites and beiges and light browns or whatever. So, yeah.
right.
But I will say, Debbie, you have amazing sense of color and her houses are beautiful. And the paintings that you pick of mine are always some of my most favorites
Oh,
because I
they're
love
beautiful.
that pink and orange like you do and the
It's
bright colors. And your
beautiful.
environments are amazing.
Thank
And
you. Thank
environment for me is really important. That's
right.
something to get
It
into
makes you
also.
feel so good, and I feel like I walk in and I look at that painting every single day all throughout the day as I'm in and out, and I never get tired of it, and I would,
Oh, thank
think
you.
that when you buy a piece, maybe some people might tire of it, but it just always makes me happy, and it's just such a nice big piece. You can also buy smaller pieces from Pam as well, but, they're just statement pieces. They're really great. So one of the things which is so cool, I couldn't understand. So I met Pam through a newscaster. She was having an event in a house, and the house was a nice size house, but it wasn't a mansion. And these pieces are huge that she has. And I'm like, how is she going to have an art show in someone's private home? And there's going to be all these people in there. So tell us, and Pam lives in New York and I live in California. So, and Pam travels the world shipping her art pieces. And so tell us how you do that.
Okay, well, part of growing up in a Frank Lloyd Wright community, I think he was a real visionary and an out of the box thinker, is I also am an out of the box thinker. And I'm also practical in a way. So we had a problem, Garrett and I, my husband and I. He's Danish, and we would travel back and forth to Europe all the time. When you stretch and frame everything, you're not able to travel with it. So we had that problem to begin with. Second of all, stretching and framing everything is expensive. We weren't rich at the beginning at all. Not that I'm rich now, but we really didn't have a lot of money to frame things. And when you have a gallery show, even if you're successful at it, you still have that framing expense and you end up, not making a lot of money in the
Right.
end if you've got to stretch and frame everything, even if you have a successful show, I would say. So, we would work on the wall, as I explained, we'd push pin our canvases to the wall and we would roll them after we were finished with them. And that also was good and practical because when you have everything stretched and framed, then you need a lot of space to store everything. And when you get to be my age, forget it. You need a warehouse because I work every day. So,
Wow.
it's just really expensive to have a whole warehouse full of your stuff. So, all of these things kind of contributed to us trying to figure out a way to do things differently. And a friend of mine approached me at some point at my 10th high school reunion. She came to my studio and she said, God, I love your work. And she had lost her house in the Oakland Berkeley fire
Oh,
in 1991.
yeah.
And they had just rebuilt the same house again. And so she said, I love your work. Why don't you come out and do a show in my house? And I have all white walls and I want to buy work for my house, but we'll invite the neighbors. They're all in the same boat.
Oh,
They have
wow.
insurance money and, they need to put
They're
things
ready
on
to
their
spend.
wall. Yes. So that was the first time that I did something like that. And it was wonderful. I never also, be honest with you, never felt really comfortable in the art world. I'm about trying to bring art down to the masses in a way. And I feel like
Okay.
the gallery world was more, people were intimidated going into galleries.
Right.
It was uncomfortable, it was sterile, and I just was never comfortable in that world. And then going
True.
to openings felt to me like I always stood around kind of feeling like an idiot, and you can't really see the art because there's people there in front of it. And
Right.
so this was like a very intimate way of showing my work. So we traveled with our work in rolls, and we would do like 10 or 12 canvases per roll, and we would bring like maybe 3 rolls or sometimes 4 rolls out. And we finally figured out the best way to do it would be to put them in ski bags. So we
Oh.
would, yeah, so we would travel with ski bags. Sometimes we would send ahead or whatever, and we would go into somebody's home. We would take care of all the logistics of they would give us their emails of their friends to invite. And we didn't need to have huge crowds, but some people would invite 3 couples and sometimes people would invite 20 or whatever it was. And I would take care of sending out an evite. And then also if they wanted me to, I could do the food or, make it easy for people. And we would unroll them on the floor like Persian carpets. So we didn't hang anything on the wall either. So we would need just an expanse to like pick up a canvas and put it next to the. So we'd need like, and my big canvases they seem really big, but once they're stretched, they're kind of above the couch size, 50 by
Okay.
80 inches, something like that. And so, a lot of people, when you have a big wall, it's very hard to make something look good if it's small.
Right.
So, yeah, our work is not prohibitive in an apartment or whatever. So we started to do that, and then we realized, a lot of what people like is the relationship, the personal
Mm.
relationship with an artist. And I
Right.
enjoyed, after working in a studio by myself, I enjoyed connecting with my clients. And I will say that, like Frank Lloyd Wright, who did a lot of built in furniture and the environment, the interior was so important to him as well. I feel like the room is an extension of my palette. So
Right.
for me to find the right place for a painting is really important because you might love a painting and then it like kills the room or closes the room off. So after I would do these shows in somebody's house and meet people, I would make appointments and go into their homes with some of their choices and hold them up so they could really see what a big piece of art would do in their room and what this one would look like and what that one would look like. And it was great. It was
And
great
where
for
to
them.
place
It was
it.
great for me.
When we were
And
at my house, we placed it in a few different places and people would hold them up and then we'd say, "Okay, there or there." And then even though they were for me in similar tones, we would kind of cycle through the few different ones and then finally establish which one it was. So now,
yes.
and one of the things was also you have them all on the ground and I was so worried to walk on them and you're like, "No, they're fine. You can walk on them. You're not going to damage them." But I do love the personal. It's just so personal. It's such a wonderful way to really connect with the artist and the art and really spend time with it. I mean, when you're at an art
Hmm.
gallery, you look and you might come back, but you don't spend as much time as when you're in a cocktail situation, let's say, and you're conversing, getting to know you, getting to know your art, and really going a little deeper. So
Yes.
then you buy a piece of art. So what's next?
Well, I want to just back up for 1 second about
Yes.
something, about that intimacy.
Right.
It's also like taking the art off the pedestal in a way.
Right.
And
Yes.
so much of me has to do with living with art. And I had
Right.
an experience that really made me realize how important that is. I won't name the museum and I won't name the artist. And well, I will name the
Yeah.
artist. I was in a museum. I don't want to get anyone in trouble because I was in a museum in Spain once and they were setting up a Joseph Cornell show. And basically, it wasn't open to the public yet. They were just installing it, and I kind of wandered in and was started to talk with them. They were Americans, so I was talking with them or whatever, and they allowed me to come back and actually hold these Joseph Cornell boxes in my hands. And there was just something so different than seeing it removed on the wall, which
Right.
I think in a gallery experience, it's removed from you.
Right.
So there was just something so intimate and nice about that. And I think part of the success I have going into people's homes and showing that way is it really makes it more personal and more
Absolutely.
intimate.
Absolutely. And they can hear your story and they can ask you questions and
Yes,
you can go so much deeper and you're in a small intimate setting where you can, get to know you a lot better and it's just yeah, it's wonderful. I've been to quite a few and referred you to quite a few people.
yes,
It's just a fun way to gather. It's yeah, it's a great experience. So then you
thank
buy the
you.
art and how does it get mounted and what are your recommendations so
Okay,
people
so
know?
basically, again, in the way of being practical is, I basically point somebody in the direction of a framer, and I've worked in many cities all across the US and even in Europe. So I have the framers that I work with. And so if you buy a canvas rolled, you take it there and they'll stretch it for you. And that usually runs about $400 or $500 for the big canvases. And that's someone just like framing, they would take care of that. The client would do that.
And then they'll come and hang it for you. It
Yeah,
was
if you
super
want it
easy.
installed.
And I like that one of mine is framed and 2 of them are tacked on, and I love that look too. So it depends your style or the style of the room. You could do it either way because I love
Exactly.
the ruffled edges of
Yes.
the art.
Yes.
It's just a whole different feeling.
Yeah.
Um, what was I
And if
gonna
you go
say?
on my website, there are some examples of it just being tacked up.
Right,
And
it's
people
just a
do
little
like
more
that rawness.
I
And
do,
then,
I
if you like the finished edge, you can just wrap it around because I paint to the edge. Or you can actually frame it if you want a canvas.
right,
And
into
I
a
do a lot
frame.
of paper pieces as well that get framed traditionally.
That's
And
true.
if,
Framing it
and then I,
traditionally with letting the pieces that go around, that would be
yeah.
nice.
And then certain pieces I do where I do it on paper because I like working on paper, like my
Uh,
trees, which are
oh, right.
60-inch tall. And those I have somebody, I don't want most of the time to be behind glass. So I will have the paper mounted onto canvas. And I
Oh,
have framers that will do that for me. So that doesn't, it's paper, but it's acrylic paint, so it's protected. It's, and then, because I use a heavy paper as well. And then you don't need to put it behind glass and it looks like a stretched canvas.
okay. And so you have all sorts of sizes. You could and so you are they can go in a bathroom, they can go in a hallway, they can be long, they can small. You do all sizes. So if someone wanted to try
Hmm.
it out, and then tell us your art is in a lot of different places. I'll go into a restaurant and I'm like, there's a Pam Smilo. So, tell us are some of the places that your art does hang other than personal residences.
Well, I don't know off the top of my head. I can't even think about it. I've sold to a lot of corporations and law firms and um, Denmark, lots of homes there and restaurants and lobby spaces and
Right.
just all over, everything from New York to California and Japan. I've
Wow.
sold stuff in Japan. I have a lot of stuff in Europe. So I'm
It's
all over.
all over the place.
I'm
It's
lucky. I'm
incredible.
lucky.
You are. So also I wanted to thank you. Pam has been kind enough to donate to some of my charities over the years, and she just donated to Race to Erase MS. And I really appreciate that for
Yeah,
donating to that cause. It's just really wonderful. It brightens someone's day up to buy your
I'm
art.
always happy to donate. I really am. If I can help raise money for charities that I like, I'm happy to do it. I really am.
So tell us
I
about
mean,
the oh, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying that I think a lot of my work has to do with spreading joy.
Yes.
And and that's what I write a newsletter as well, and that's kind of the theme of that as well.
Right.
And
So, well,
so
let's talk about your newsletter because I remember when you started it, you said, "Debbie, I need your help. How do I even do this?" And now you're
yes,
what
you actually
number?
pointed me. Thank you.
What well, you've been at it consistently every, I think, Sunday you send it out. How did you start your newsletter and what's included in your newsletter?
Okay, so I started my newsletter during the pandemic. I'm the type of person who really likes to share. My dad was the same way. He had stores up and down the East Coast, and somebody would walk in, lay down on this bed and see, he every food he liked, he wanted everybody to have that food or whatever. So I kind of inherited that from him. And so during the pandemic, when I was isolated in my studio in New York, I was even afraid at the beginning to go out to the
Mm,
garbage. I just started to think, I don't know how I started to think about it, but I started to think I want to share things that I've loved throughout my whole life. And I started to remember films I'd seen when I was a kid, or books I'd read, or, you know, some podcasts that I had heard that I found interesting. And so I decided to call it Things We Love. I could have called it Things I Love, but that was taken. So I said Things We Love. And basically, I write about three things every week. I haven't missed 1 week, and it's been over
wow,
4 years.
that's
And
incredible.
it's like a diary to me of
Right.
everything I've loved. And I have to say, I never run out of things that I love. And
That's
basically, in this time when it's so turbulent and
mhm,
troubling and upsetting, I just feel like if I can be a little respite, give a little
right.
respite, or just a little joy in the midst of all this crazy,
Negative.
horrible stuff going on, that's a gift. And so
Right.
I try and celebrate what humans do best. And, I write everything from rescuing dogs to a film about an orphanage in Nepal, or, I mean, that's what I'm writing about this week, to Jungian therapy, to children who remember their past lives,
Oh,
to
wow.
all kinds of scientific things, poetry, recipes. So I include three things every week,
Love it.
and I love doing it, and people are responsive. So that makes me
Oh,
feel really good, like I'm succeeding in
that's
spreading
awesome.
joy.
You
Yeah.
have not missed. It's incredible. So I want to read, this is something that you're working on now that I did not know about. Jumpstart Your Creativity. Let's get going, and let me help you as your art mentor, cheerleader, and supporter. So I won't read it. I'll let you tell us, what is that all about?
Yeah. So I think that one of the ways that you can really counter the bad feelings that are going around right now and the hate is to create. And
Mm,
when I say create, it could be everything from a painting to a sandcastle, to a dress, to a sweater, to, I don't know, anything that you can do that just is either working with your hands or making music, or just anything that comes out of your creative source. And so with art, I realized that a lot of people, when they want to start doing some art, and I think a lot of people my age decide, they want to do something creative like that,
mhm.
um, they go to watercolor.
Okay.
And in my opinion, that is not a good move, because watercolor is the most unforgiving of all the paints. You
Everything
know,
turns black.
Yeah, or you can't, if you make a mistake, you can't get rid of it or whatever. So I just thought, you know what? I want to help people to do something that's going to make them feel good and that they can handle.
Mhm.
So, and I just realized that a lot of people are very intimidated by making art. And I am all about trying to bring out the inner child in people. I think that's so important. I think we all have it alive in us, but that we kind of feel like it's not good enough or whatever. And when you're a child and you sit down and you paint, you're not thinking, is this good? Everybody
Right,
is so judgmental of themselves. Oh, I'm
right.
embarrassed. I can't draw. I can't. You don't need to draw. Expressing yourself doesn't have to do with drawing. It has, and by the way, drawing is a technical skill that
Mhm.
everybody can learn. Betty
Wow,
Edwards wrote a book a long time ago called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And that is a book. If you want to learn how to draw, you can learn
wow.
how to draw. And it has to do with shutting off the part of your brain that's that judgmental side that also has these preconceived symbols of what an eye is or a nose. And instead of looking and seeing, the shadow and the light, you're actually pulling up symbols. That's the left side of your brain. And so if you use the right side, you're actually just seeing the shadows and the lines and the grade of color or light or whatever. And so you can learn how to draw with that
Wow,
book.
I did not
But
know that because I
yeah,
cannot draw. I'm gonna have to
yeah,
pick it up.
yeah. I think everyone can draw, but they just haven't developed the skill. Like you can't just, go on a tennis court and know how to play tennis. You have to,
That's true,
you know.
that's true.
So but everybody can express themselves.
Right.
And so I just try and make it so that people are less intimidated with the whole process. So when people come to me, I will have them, I can do it on Zoom or I can do it in person. And basically, what I'm trying to help them do is set up a studio so they know what to buy for what they want to
Oh, I
do.
love
And
it.
it doesn't have to just be paint, it could be whatever kind of creative thing they want to do. And if I know about it, I can help them. And then basically, they I just am like a cheerleader to them. And I
Mhm.
try and get them to bring out that inner child. And I give them exercises that bring out that inner child that are not intimidating so they can get themselves going. And then people can stick with me if they want to keep themselves accountable. But they can also just come to me at the beginning and just get going and not have to do many, many lessons.
I
And
love this.
yeah, I think it's a really good thing. I think it's really needed right now. And so I love doing it. And I think the main thing for me is I'm just very encouraging to people that they can do it and feel good about it and not worry so much. So I'm kind of a reminder that we all have the ability to create. We don't
Right,
all have the ability to be Picasso per se, but
right,
that's not what it's about. It
right.
really isn't. It's about just the process of doing it.
And it does seem like people who are retired or they're older and they're not as mobile, they start to do it later in life, but you don't have to wait till you're later in life. You can start it now, but what I love is that I mean,
Absolutely.
I know your art so well intimately, but it's so great what you already taught. Like, I will definitely do a Zoom with you where you can tell me what to buy so I can, do try to do it, and, just getting someone set up in their own studio is huge,
Yes.
and then they could go and then they can continue on or maybe once a
Yeah,
month meet with you and check in with you. I think it's a great,
exactly.
and I'd also like to offer it to maybe my clients, my real estate clients, to do a fun on Zoom to, maybe I'll send out what medium they might be interested in or something, or say, we're gonna do an acrylic class, and this is what you
Yeah,
need to buy. You could give us a list of what we need to buy, and we can do maybe a little piece, and then it's just another way to bring people together. I love it.
absolutely. And there are tricks of the trade in terms of materials or whatever. And some people will bake a cake or whatever, and they don't want to share the recipe. I'm the opposite. Anything I know, I'm very happy to share with other people and tell them what I've learned over the years. And I've been
Right.
at it a long time, so I kind of do know a lot about how to work acrylic paint or how to do certain things in the art world.
Well, one of the things you said earlier was that, so you put, if you're gonna do the pink or the reds, you'll put a green. So how do
Hmm.
you tell us how you get to that color? How do you get to that beautiful bright pink from a green, and what's the next couple steps?
Well, it's just the green is just sort of the background, and it's
Okay.
dry, so it has an effect. I mean, you could even do an experiment where you put blocks of different colors and
Okay.
then see how each color changes. Joseph Albers did a lot of color studies where if you put a red next to a green or you put a red next to a yellow, the red looks different next to
Well,
each different thing. So there's
right.
a lot of color theory involved, just that you can see with your eyes.
Right. Wow. So what other
Yeah.
kinds of so if someone said, "I wanna do a Zoom class with you or in person," give us a few different things. You work with acrylic. What else could you teach people that wanted to reach out to you?
I mean, I would say any kind of just talking them through the to get over the fear of
Mhm.
doing something creative. Even if it is, I don't know, cooking or sewing or whatever, just to kind of get people going to know how important creativity is. And then the whole gamut of painting things. Like I'm a printmaker also, so I can teach all kinds of printmaking things. And there are ways that you can, do stuff at home. You don't need a big press to do it or whatever. And
Right.
and then craft things, everything from candle making to whatever.
Oh, that
Um,
would be a fun one, candle making,
yeah,
and so you could tell us what we needed to buy so we pretty much do it together on Zoom, a candle
yeah,
making, or do you
yeah.
need
Probably need
something
a hot plate or something like that. But yeah, I'd
right.
have to get it together to do a class like that. But yeah, absolutely. I
I love
think the
it.
main thing is just to give people permission to
Mhm.
begin something and not be afraid, and then to encourage them to keep going with it.
Right,
Because for
right.
me, that's definitely there are there are two things that are so rewarding in my life. One of them is getting up and creating what I want to do every day in my art.
Mhm.
I realized, I'm kind of in the process of back and forth from New York to Maine and thinking what's my main place now and I realized my art is my home. It
Right,
really is. And I just realized that a few days ago to be able to voice that. So
right,
that's really important. And then the other thing in my life is the relationships I have with my friends.
right.
That is so important to me. So for me, that's the meaning of my life is those two things,
I
my
love
friends
it.
and family. Yeah.
And nowadays we could be with our friends anywhere. We just pop on Zoom.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
somewhere between Maine and New York right now,
Yeah.
and I'm in Northern California, and
I know.
next week I'll be recording from Cabo. So it's
Yeah.
as long as I have my mic here, I could meet with people anywhere in the world. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so
Well,
it's
I have to give a little story about Debbie is I was in Santa Fe doing a
oh,
show there and Debbie just popped in. I had no idea she was coming and I was at that Japanese spa, that amazing
oh,
place.
right.
And there out of a car comes Debbie DiMaggio. I'm like, wow. That was so awesome.
That
I
was an
love seeing you
incredible
there.
that
Yeah.
was incredible. That was an
Yeah.
incredible time. Well, we were there because someone, her good friend or not, I don't know if it was a great friend or just someone that used to shop at her store, she literally opened up a store for Pam and her husband, and that was the gallery in no less than Santa Fe, New Mexico on the Art Walk, huge. And it was just
Yeah, on
all to
Canyon Road.
you and your husband. It was incredible that what an
Thank you.
honor it was. So, of
Yeah.
course, I couldn't miss it, and we had
Yeah.
beautiful time. It was incredible, and we got to meet
Thank
your
you. And that
family.
actually makes me realize too that not only so when my husband died, sadly, we used to collaborate a lot
Oh,
with our work and go on my website on the art shop section, a lot of like we did these little animals, clay prints, and we did a lot of collaborative work together. But after he died, he always had wanted to start a business where he would use his art on products because he started as a ceramicist and
oh,
he
really?
liked the idea of production. So after he died, we never quite got to getting a collection going of products. But after he died, in tribute to him, I decided to try and get together products related to his art. And some of it's mine, but a lot of it is his. And so on the art shop section of my website, we have everything from tea towels to all kinds of
Oh,
scarves
nice.
to charcuterie, cutting boards, to a memory game that's really fantastic
Oh,
for kids and adults alike. If you're worried about your memory,
oh,
it's like
that's
and it's
great.
yeah, it's based on our animal prints and yeah. So
So
uh,
with that, tell us your website and how people could get in touch with you and what your website is and how
yeah,
they can book a class with you as well.
okay. So my website is just my name, PamelaSmilow.com or PamSmilow.com. Both go to the right place. And then my Substack is called Things We Love, Pam Smilow. You can Google it. And the Substack, if you subscribe, is free. I do have paying people as well, but for the main thing, it's free. Uh, I was kind of told I shouldn't just leave it all free, but I really want to leave it free. And then if you subscribe, then you'll get like a free print or something like that, or even
Oh,
like a
very cool.
session with me or consultation or whatever. But the main part of it, which is the 3 stories every week, inspiring stories, that's all free. And that's on Substack. And and on my website, I have a lot of available paintings and stuff, and then that I have a section at the beginning called Living with Art, which shows our work in clients' homes. So you
Mm.
can kind of picture how things change an environment or, how it lightens up a room or something like that. And then if you want to book a class with me, you can do it through my website, the contact section, or Substack. You can write me a note on Substack, or my email is my name, Pam Smilow at me.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And that it's incredible. And thank you so much, Pam. I know you are en route from Maine to New York, and I really appreciate you coming today. And I'm so glad we did this. And it's so fun to catch up. And I can't wait to take a course with you. And oh,
Yeah,
I know
that sounds
one
really
last
great.
thing.
Okay.
Give our audience price point from low to high,
Oh,
so
yeah.
they it is affordable. There is obviously high end, but
Yeah.
it is affordable in some of the smaller pieces, and you can still own a piece of Pam Smilow art because it is very happy.
Okay, so basically, my little animal pieces, which are like 8 by 10 inch size, they're little prints. They're very joyous. They could sit on a shelf or whatever. Those are $150, so super affordable. My paper pieces are between 1,200 and 1,500. That's usually like 22 by 30 size. It's in inches. And then I have small, medium, and large canvases, and those range from about 6,500 to 8,500, and then oversized, maybe a little bit more. But I've tried to keep my prices low. Low. Everything is relative, but I
Right,
think
right.
compared to many
More affordable.
living artists, my work is on the lower side, because I want it to be affordable, to people. And I'm flexible in terms of payment plans as well. So if somebody wants a piece of art, I try and make it happen. And I will
Wonderful.
say that people agonize over their window treatments or their sofa or
Right.
how they're going to decorate their room. But the loudest voice in the room is usually the art.
Oh my God, that is
Yeah.
so true. That is
Yes.
so
And
true.
people don't notice all these other things you've agonized, but they do notice the art.
Wow.
And I think that's something that people should keep in mind when they're working on their interior. And I'll say one last thing.
Yep.
If you have a big wall, in my opinion, it's very hard to put small pieces on and looking good because it ends up looking cluttered.
Right.
So if you have a big wall, I would encourage you to try and look at the shape of the wall. So if it's a vertical wall, you probably want to put a vertical painting on there. And if it's above a couch or something, you probably want to do a horizontal piece. Um, and, just pay attention to the environment, because for me, growing up in the Frank Lloyd Wright community, back to that, so much of it has to do with what's around it. And, a lot of artists don't care about what their work does in a bigger and place. But for me, I see the room as an extension of my palette. And I'm trying to create a vibration and a feeling in a room that makes people feel good. Luckily, my work is upbeat. Not every
Right.
artist's work is, and not every artist's work can do that. But in my case, I think it really contributes to a room. And so I like to focus on that and helping people pick the right pieces. And one last thing, I have a way of working virtually with people. So if
Oh,
you have a wall in your home and you want to try and find some piece to work on it, um, if you back up and take a picture of your wall with the elements in the room around it, so I can see what the surroundings are, I can superimpose art onto your wall and
oh
show you
wow.
how it will transform your room. So I
Wow.
can work distant with people, and I can send things out to you on approval. If you don't like it, you can send it right back. But I can put a bunch of different pieces on there so you can see how each piece looks different and how it
Wow.
changes the room. And I also work often on FaceTime with people. And
Oh,
yeah,
that's incredible. That is awesome. And when are you coming to California next? Do you have a date?
I'm actually coming in October. I'm going to spend
October. All
a
right.
lot of October in California. Yeah.
All
I
right.
do
Well,
a
I
bit
like
of traveling all over.
to.
I'm going to go to Colorado. I go to Texas. I go a little bit all over. I was just in Chicago.
So if you want
So
Pam to come to your house and do an art show in your house, reach out to
yeah.
her.
And
She
I offer a
gets
free piece
around
of
and
art in exchange for
that's
that.
right.
I offer a paper piece or a big discount towards a bigger piece. So I'm always looking for people to host me. I don't need to hang anything on your walls. I just need an expanse on the floor. If you could move your furniture a little bit so that I have room to show the pieces on the floor. People gather around, we talk, it's informal. It's a great way to entertain people because, if you want to have a cocktail party, it's fun to have like an activity. So it's really I've been doing this for 35 years
Oh, so
and
reach
it's
out to
really
Pam on
fun.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a fun way,
Thanks,
and
Debbie.
she gets around, so just reach out. She can, in between places, she'll stop at your house and do a cocktail party for you. Well, thank you so much, Pam. Safe
Thank
travels
you. What a
to on your
pleasure.
journey. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. So nice to talk with you again and see you. And I really
So
appreciate you
fun.
doing this podcast with me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Tune in each week for another episode of Mastering the Art of Real Estate with host Debbi DiMaggio, where real estate matters matter.